whereas the Town Council of the Town of Pulaski, Virginia desires to recognize those employees who, upon their retirement, have rendered a career of service to the Town of Pulaski in giving of their time, talents, and abilities in service to the community and its citizens. And whereas Captain Alfred K. Andy Anderson, Jr. has served 36 years as a soldier, deputy sheriff, and member of the Pulaski Police Department in a career dedicated to the protection of his country and his community despite the dangers and hardships involved. And whereas Captain Anderson served 4 years in the United States Army as a combat engineer, followed by 7 years of service as a deputy sheriff for Giles County, and whereas Captain Anderson joined the Pulaski Police Department in 1995 and distinguished himself serving in the Patrol Division as an officer, sergeant, and lieutenant in the Investigation Division as a detective and detective sergeant, in the Narcotics Division as the Professional Standards Lieutenant, and finally as captain. And whereas in the course of his service, Captain Anderson received the Distinguished Service Award 4 times, the Life Saving Award, and the Combat Cross. And whereas Captain Anderson retired on April 1st, 2021 after completing 25 years of service as a member of the Pulaski Police Department. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Town Council of the Town of Pulaski, Virginia, sitting in regular session this 6th day of April 2021, that the Town Council does commend and heartily thank Captain Alfred K. Anderson, Jr. for his dedicated service to the Town of Pulaski and the Town of Pulaski Police Department. Be it further resolved that the Town Council and town employees extend to Captain Anderson their best wishes for a fulfilling and enjoyable retirement that is most certainly richly deserved. This resolution, effective upon adoption, and is hereby will be adopted the 6th day of April 2021 by the duly recorded vote of the Town Council of Pulaski, Virginia, as follows. May I get a motion for this, please?
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt Resolution 2021-14 in recognition of the service of Andy Anderson, Jr. With our police department.
Second. And may I have a roll call for that, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. East?
Aye.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Aye.
Mr. Corns?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Anderson is not here tonight, but perhaps the chief could accept the resolution, and there are a couple members of his senior staff that are also in the audience, I believe, to be here for this recognition. And if you all would like to come forward and so that you can be a part of this, and maybe Jordan can take a picture that we can have. We'll get everybody in place.
Is he enjoying his first 4 days worth of retirement?
Yes, I think he is.
So we do congratulate Mr. Anderson and wish him well in his retirement.
With that, we'll move on to the public comment period. Now that the public has left, so. And now we'll move to the consent agenda. If you would look over,
Didn't we add
oh, we were supposed to, yeah, as well.
Is that what you were?
yeah,
I don't think we did.
yeah, we added something that we need.
We added ordinance 2021-07,
Okay.
so,
If you would like to look over that first, then. And you can do that.
I'll move that we adopt ordinance 2021-07 as written.
Second.
And may I get a roll call for that one then?
Yes, sir. Mr. Penn?
Yes.
Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. East?
Aye.
Mr. Radcliffe?
Aye.
Mr. Corns?
Aye.
Mr. Reese?
Aye.
Now, if you would, look over, in consideration of March 16th, 2021 council work session minutes, and if I can get a motion to accept them.
I Make a motion to approve the March 16th, 2021 council work session minutes.
And may I get a roll call for that, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Mr. Penn? Yes. Mr. Dawson?
Aye.
Mr. East? Mr. Radcliffe?
Aye.
Mr. Cantz?
Aye.
Mr. Reeves?
And now, we'll move to the council's comments. Mr. Penn, do you have any comments today, please, sir? You've got that. And Mr. Dawson?
I had two things that I wanted to bring up, and I talked to Darlene about these already, but figured I'd just get them in front of everybody. Nothing to overly discuss, I guess, this evening, but we have the contract with Gatewood, I think, ends this year. And so certainly is open for discussion, I guess, as that goes. I certainly, in my personal opinion, feel like that, you know, from my understanding of how things were and where we stand now, that there's a positive move and position has been made. It wasn't without bumps along the road, I'm sure, with as changes always do, but I think Mr. Valash and how he has handled himself and the people that work with him has certainly, you know, been driven to make improvements, and any benefit that he makes benefits the town, and I think that's what his interests are, is continuing to grow, you know, what's being done up there to the benefit of obviously his business, but again, if it benefits him, it's gonna benefit the town, and so I, for one, you know, feel like it's a positive relationship, but I figured that needed to at least be out there for, you know, for people to consider their thoughts. And then the last thing was actually in regards to a project that Peggy White has in front of her with the county currently, and all of you guys know how excited she is when she has something in front of her. But she has interest in being engaged with downtown Pulaski, and, you know, there's obviously with the town of Pulaski, or, you know, properties that the county may have within downtown Pulaski, in pursuing a permanent food truck location is the concept that's out there, to basically have us, you know, a permanent place where, as opposed to food trucks coming being random in location potentially, that you'd actually have a destination where it was set for locations for food trucks to be able to park, and then have lighting and tables and things of that nature, for it to be functional from a lunchtime and dinner time frame, as just as a destination place. We obviously have practiced in having food trucks, and we had, I guess what you'd call a semi kind of permanent location at the train station that they, you know, was used on a pretty frequent basis. But I think the concept is maybe going a little bit bigger than that, maybe not too crazy big. I think there's, you know, maybe, I don't think she was necessarily looking for money, which obviously we're short on, but maybe interest, you know, of being engaged at that table. And I think Darlene said she'd get Brady kind of at least engaged in the conversation if it continued on, but just wanted to make everybody aware that those things are out there.
Sounds like something we should make sure Pulaski on Main's aware of.
That's you know, absolutely.
And if I could just build upon what Mr. Dawson has said, if the council is interested in negotiating now rather than this time next year with Mr. Valash, I'm prepared to do that. I would like some sentiment expressed by the council as to whether or not that's something you want to do. In his original proposal, he did indicate if he was given I believe it's called a fourth and a fifth year, he had mentioned some percentages, and we may want to negotiate those a little bit further to the north, but I didn't want to do anything until Mr. Dawson did bring this up and see if there were others who were interested in negotiating now, or let this last year of his contract go through, and then we put the RFP out for consideration, just not by him, but by others. I would also say that I have spoken with Peggy about a couple of locations, and we happened to have a conversation at the ribbon cutting for the mayor's business, and Patrick Ford, who you met and saw tonight, was there, and he expressed some interest in a possible location on Main Street, and so those conversations are occurring, and I did suggest to her at least one other, if not two other alternative locations. In the meantime, I have asked Brady to bring up with the planning commission at their next regular meeting, the issue of allowing for in our zoning ordinance as well as our comprehensive plan in the future, the idea of permanent locations for food trucks. In some other communities that I have worked in, they actually designated certain areas where food trucks could park so that they didn't interfere with other eatery kinds of businesses, which is something we'd certainly want to be concerned with, particularly as we try to recruit more eateries to the town. But we are working on both of those issues, and I'm happy, as I said, to get with Mr. Balash and negotiate something further if that's the desire of the council.
I think, and I spoke with him, the big thing, I think, that drew the conversation out was obviously with that with the season approaching, and, a year in front of him as of last year, it's a question of how much investment he should make on his part, how much money he should spend, to make improvements and push things forward, and I don't think we want to do anything to slow that down. If going ahead and making those decisions allows for him to know whether to not to or to do, I think, as opposed to having to have it lingering is probably to the benefit of both of us, regardless of what the decision is.
I agree that we should at least begin the conversation with them and see, if we can come to a mutually beneficial. It doesn't seem to hurt to have that conversation at least. If we both, one of the other party decides to walk away, then that's their choice, but at least doesn't seem to be any reason not to at least open that conversation up.
And if there were to be any changes or negotiation, I would bring that back to the council for your approval.
Yeah.
It's been a very successful relationship thus far, in that we erased a rather significant deficit when we had full operation.
I thought,
Ms. Reese?
I do have one question. Does anybody know, somebody asked me from out of town if, and you mentioned Gatewood, so it made me think of it. Was Gatewood named after Grandma Gatewood?
No,
It was not.
it's former councilman father.
Okay.
Peggy, I think Polly Mitchell, Patty was Mr. Gatewood.
Okay. Interesting.
He was an engineer.
Okay. Grandma Gatewood, she was the first woman to walk the Appalachian Trail 4 times,
4 times.
2,000 some miles. But anyway, so they asked me, and I said, I have no idea.
Building on that, I
That's all.
just want to mention, we have put out new, hopefully more attractive signs for Gatewood, that are larger and more visible, that we want people, who haven't visited before, but there are lots of return visitors. In fact, I understand that just retired Captain Anderson likes to spend a lot of time there himself. But we have put signs out, not only the, typical welcome signs, but some directional signs to that. So we're hoping that if somebody's trying to get there for the first time, it'll be a little bit easier to understand the route.
We took up a collection as part of his retirement and bought him a month up there, so if you're looking for him, that's where he is.
Mr. Ratcliffe, I'm sure you don't have anything, so.
Cruise ins. I was asked by some citizens today if we could have a couple cruise ins this year. It really worked really good on Main Street when we was having them down there, and it brings business to the downtown area. They're not asking for a lot of just, and I don't know, I can maybe get somebody in touch with either you or Jordan, let you guys work it out and schedule with them. It really does it brings a lot of business downtown, so.
If somebody's interested, tell them to please contact us. Mr. Pedigo mentioned to me how successful those have been in the past, and a couple of positions ago, in another community, we had several of those, and they were very, very popular. So I certainly understand the benefit. I think all of us have been very cautious as to how we plan events at all for the future until we get over this COVID situation and more people are vaccinated and, restrictions have been lifted, but, if we can work with the police and others to control
Okay.
traffic and make sure that we're not putting people in harm's way, we're certainly ready to look at that, particularly if we're a couple, 3 months out, both in the planning and hopefully in the condition of the community. So just send them our way.
Sounds good. Only thing is, thank you for all the work you're doing on the budgeting before we get preparing us. I know you're working a lot of long hours, you didn't sign up for that, you're doing a good job at it, so, glad you're here, so thank you. Mr. Pond
Nothing.
and Mr. Reese.
Just two things, they're actually both happen to be playground related. I happen to notice that we installed the hand sanitizer station up at Sixth Street Playground, and I don't remember anybody ever mentioning that, but it's a great idea, and I just don't know whose idea it was, but it's great. And it would be nice to see them at at more places would be great.
It'll be a
Even
public parks.
even post-COVID, I think it's great, when you go out there with kids, it's just nice to be able to just, be able to disinfect. And secondly, I mentioned a while back that there was some issues with the playground equipment down at Kiwanis, at the near the train station, and I noticed just this past weekend that they've been repaired, and I wanted to thank you, and the town, employees for that, to be passed along my thanks, because that was starting to look a little hairy, and so I really appreciate that. And then, I guess there was that email about a 2-year plan, and I guess this is sort of in the same vein. And this is something I think we should, whether we have the money to replace the playground equipment or not, I would like to see within the next year or two that we have a plan, just like with all the other capital improvements. That's, I think, one of those, whether it's playground equipment or other recreational facilities. I mean, I think the one thing I've noticed in the past year is that the more things we have to do here, the more we keep businesses and people in town. And I think, I have some other ideas percolating around, but, I think we try to think as much as possible about, whether it's a cruise in, whether it's a playground, whether it's a food truck, what more things can we do to help keep the people of, the dollars that people earn in this town, spent in this town as much as possible, because that'll help all of our problems, hopefully. Helping more businesses, more rent, more property values, more, et cetera. So, thank you.
Now, this 5-year capital improvement plan, we have listed not by location, but we have listed beginning, not this next fiscal year, but the following year, playground equipment replacement at one playground and then 2 years later, and the second. And I was really looking to the council to get past the first year to tell me where you wanted that first playground to go.
I have plenty of ideas about that, but, I'm happy to discuss that at the budget meeting.
But I'm just saying, I think we have recognized that, that it does need to be done, and we do need to get them all done on a certain schedule. And I look to the council as well as the staff for guidance about that, where that would go. You've also given me the opportunity to mention a call that I got just at the end of last week, from the county, where the county administrator asked if we were interested in or contemplating constructing a dog park. And I said that we had the interest by several council members for a dog park, even had a possible location mentioned, but given our financial situation, it wasn't on our radar at this time. And county administrator said, well, what if the town, or what if the county matched the town in terms of the cost? And I said, well, I'd be happy to take that idea to the council to see. But again, it's not in our list of high priorities. In fact, it wasn't even on the capital list at this point. We could certainly add it. And then, but I did tell him that in my experience, because I've had dog parks in every community that I've worked in, you need two. You need a fenced-in area for small dogs, and then you need a fenced-in area for large dogs. You can't put them together. And then if you're going to have a reasonable dog park, you need to have a couple of benches so that the owners can socialize, because it becomes a social event. And you need a water source. And then you need somebody to monitor to clean up, because even if you have those dispensers where people should be picking up after their animals, there's a lot of people who don't necessarily do the right thing. And that in my experience, even a small one, if you did all the work yourself, materials alone would be in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. And after I had explained that to Mr. Sweet, he said, well, the county would do the big dog part, so that the county could be the big dog, and the town could do the small part. So I wanted to share that with you all, that, and I'll see, later how serious they are either about matching or if we can come up with a cost and a cost sharing. But he did mention that, the end of last week to me, I guess, as they were putting a capital budget together.
Where do we sign? No, but,
That's it?
the only thing, I just want to thank our citizens and our public for how supportive they are of the local businesses. I see it firsthand now. And, I mean, Pulaski's a wonderful place. It really is. We've got a lot to offer, and hopefully we'll see more stuff happening here. I have to stay positive because this is an amazing place to live, and I don't know, I think that we're ready for some good stuff. We've been waiting, and I think it's time for Pulaski, so that's just my comment. Okay, so we'll move on to the manager's report.
Well, Mr. Penn asked for macarons, didn't you? Didn't you ask for another round of macarons? I just want to say that, on the lighter side, I had the pleasure of visiting, over this past weekend with my youngest grandson, who's in the culinary program in New York State. And I took him some of the macarons, and he tasted them and said they were far better than any that they were doing at the culinary school. He's in the baking class right now, although that's not his interest. So, even at a culinary school, they cannot surpass what's happening in Pulaski when it comes to sweets. So I just wanted to pass that on. And then I did want to mention, we haven't gotten the right hanging tools evidently, but we have finally been able to get the picture that is to go on the wall through tradition for the immediate past mayor. And it has been framed and was picked up, I guess, today by Jordan at the framer. And so at your next meeting, that will be properly hung on its place there on the wall of mayors. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. I think I've talked
I
about
hope we won't need one for me for a long time, but that's beside the point. All right, so then just a reminder that our future council meeting is April 20th, 2021. That's the work session, council work session. Closed session starts at 5 p.m. Public session starts at 6:30. There's nothing else. May I get a motion to adjourn?